Good morning, everyone. We are welcoming for another class. That is the second part of the second chapter. We were talking about the first part in the previous class, and we discussed and end with the class the development of writing, the purpose of writing. So today we are going to start with the urbanization in southern Mesopotamia, especially focus on temples and kings. From 5000 BC, settlement had begun to develop in southern Mesopotamia. Cities and towns began to develop around temples. People began to build and rebuild temples at selected places. The earliest known temple was a small shrine made of unbaked bricks. Temples were considered as a residence of various gods like a moon god of Ur, Inanna, the gods of love and war. Later they constructed larger temples with a lot of rooms surrounded by an open courtyard. The temple's outer wall were constructed in a zigzag way, and it is different from the normal house. The normal house, the walls were straight, whereas in the temple's walls, outer wall was zigzag way. The difference you should keep in mind how to differentiate, identify this is a temple, that is a house. By looking at the outer wall, we can differentiate this is a temple and that is a normal house. And the god was the focus of worship. People brought number of items to the temple like grain, curd, fish, and they offered these things to God. And God was considered as the owner of the field. And various activities were also performed in the temple like oil pressing, grain grinding, spinning, and weaving. And the temple kept all the records of the activities and the transactions. Thus, we can say the temple was an important urban institution. I will repeat this point once again, how temple was an urban institution. I said people began to build and rebuild a number of temples in a selected place, and the earliest temple was a small shrine made of unbaked bricks, and they considered temples were the residence of various gods like moon god or love and war gods. Later they constructed larger temples with several rooms around an open courtyard, and the differences, as I told, the outer wall of the temple was a zigzag way, and the normal house it is a straight outer wall. And God was the focus of worship. They brought different things to temple to offer, like they brought grain, curd, and fish. Various activities also performed in the temple, like oil pressing, grinding, or spinning and weaving. And temple kept all the records of the activities and the transactions. Thus, we can call temple was an urban institution. When we go further in the chapter, we find that the main occupation was agriculture, and the farmers faced some problems. There were two kinds of problems they faced. One is natural problem, second is the man-made problem. Natural problem, the river water from Euphrates destroyed the crops. Many times Euphrates flooded and destroyed the crops. Second one is a man-made. Man-made problem is that the farmers blocked the canal and diverted water flow into the farm. Other farmers do not get regular water supply. And secondly, they also neglected cleaning the canal, so many times water overflowing these canals. So let us focus to another important point in this chapter, second part, And we noticed that the people in Mesopotamia stayed together, they lived together in a village. Why people of Mesopotamia lived together? There are three reasons mentioned in the history. It is easy to arrange army if required. If people are staying together, it is easy to get army. Secondly, if people are staying together, people feel safe. Thirdly, people get support if required if they stay together. So why Mesopotamians stayed together in a village? For three reasons: easy to get and easy to collect army, to find safe, and to get any other support from other people. And let's turn to another important aspect, the city life in Mesopotamia. Let us take a case study of one of the city, Ur. So Mesopotamian society was a nuclear family. Father was considered the head of the family, and we know a little about their marriage ceremony. And it is believed that a declaration was made by the bride's father about the willingness to marry. Then a gift was given to bride's people by groom's people. Then the marriage is arranged. At the time of marriage, gifts were exchanged and they shared food and made offerings in the temple. And when her mother in law came to fetch her, the bride was given her share of inheritance by her father. And father's house, father's animal, and field were inherited by son. May I repeat once again these points about the family structure in Ur, Mesopotamia. It was a nuclear family. Father was head of the family. We know little about their marriage ceremony. A declaration was made by bride's father about the willingness of the marriage. Then a gift was exchanged. Both bride's and bridegroom's family. And again at the time of marriage, gifts were exchanged. They shared the food, offered offerings in the temple. Then at the time of dispersing, the girl's father gave a share of inheritance, not the house, not the animals, not the field, but they might have given the some kind of gift as father's inheritance. Let us turn to another important feature of Ur, the town planning, how they planned their towns. Ur was one of the major cities archaeologists excavated. There was no clear town planning in Ur. It was not scientifically planned as Mohenjo-daro or Harappa. There were narrow winding streets. No wheeled cart could enter the street because it was so narrow. So people might have brought grains or firewood on donkey back. There were no street drains, but we noticed drains and clay pipes, especially in the courtyard of the house. And the house roof were sloped and the rainwater channeled into a tank. And it is believed that the people might have swept the waste from their house into the streets. That is why very often streets were automatically increase their height. So people also increased the house foundation so that the dirty water did not enter into the house. There were two superstitions also they followed. One superstition is saying that if the house threshold is raised, it is considered that is a wealthy house. Second, if the door of the house opened towards another house, it is considered as lucky. And if the house door opened outward, it is considered as unlucky. So these are the two superstitions they normally followed. Thank you, and next class we'll discuss the third part of the chapter.